PUBG is one of the biggest multiplayer games ever, and all of us here play it all the time. We looked at what you guys are saying on Discord, Twitter, and forums, and came up with this list of 10 things PUBG players really hate. Think of this not as complaining, but more of an airing of grievances and constructive criticism. And real quick, before we get started, consider following us on Discord. Discord.gg/gameranx will get you to our server where Jake, Tom, and I are hanging out. Falcon pops in from time to time to do some Q&A, and there's a ton of channels to give us suggestions, talk about games, and make some friends. So think about popping in and saying hi. Starting off at number 10, we have hackers and cheaters. This is definitely something we can all agree on. Well, most of us, I'm sure the people that are doing the cheating, probably don't feel the same way that we do. And yeah, I know cheating really sucks in any game you play, but I feel like in PUBG, it just really sucks. Especially when you've collected a good amount of loot, and you're in the top 10, you have a really good spot where you can kind of see almost the entire circle, you're golden, you're set. Then all of a sudden, you get domed, like instantly, out of nowhere. Now, a lot of people that I've complained to this about usually just say, you know, get good or, you know, just don't suck. But no, when you watch the death cam, you can see it clear as day that these people are cheating, using bots, whatever they're doing. But PlayerUnknown himself has said that now with the game being in 1.0, they're really going to try to figure out the cheating problem. Please, help us, Brendan Green. You're our only hope. Moving on to number 9, this is something that you really don't have any control over, and this is just being dealt a really shitty hand, and that's landing somewhere where absolutely nothing spawns. Like, it's just handguns and attachments and, like, hats or something. I don't know the math behind the loot drops, but sometimes, man, it just feels like it's totally against me. Thankfully, it doesn't happen too often, but there are times where you land in a grouping of buildings, and all of them, and the ones in the surrounding area, just don't have any good loot. And as you know, in PUBG, the better the loot, the better the chance of survival. I can thankfully still have a lot of fun even when I'm empty-handed in this game, but this is a common complaint that we've seen almost everywhere. Moving on to number 8, so the vehicles in PUBG, they can be kind of wonky, right? But I don't know if it's the vehicles or maybe the map that's weird, like the terrain. Honestly, I think it's just a mix of both. The trucks, cars, vans, buggies, they all control fine. Even the motorcycles control fine, except the one with the sidecar. That one kind of controls a little weird. But what this point is actually about isn't the vehicles and how they control, but more about how sometimes the terrain just fucks you over when you're driving. Like, you'll be driving over what seems like a nice flat piece of land, and then out of nowhere, you hit the tiniest bump, and your truck, car, whatever you're driving just goes flying into the air, and when you land, everyone takes damage. It makes driving with a purpose, like, super hard because you're always afraid of finding that one bump that's gonna send you flying. Coming in at number 7, we have accidental deaths. This one I'm kind of the king of. This is something that I'm constantly doing, and it's so heartbreaking and you get so mad, but there's really no one to be mad at but yourself, which gets you even more mad. It's really quite the vicious cycle. Whether you thought you could walk down a mountain and fall to your death, or you jump out of a moving car, an accident, and get downed, this is kind of embarrassing, and it's something that I do a lot. Something I do a lot when I'm driving, like I'm playing with a squad, and I decide we're gonna stop somewhere to loot, I like to use the e-brake to stop and make the back of the car spin out. And I always try to jump out while I do that because I think I just look cool, and I always down myself. So don't be like me, just play it safe and just try not to like fall off a cliff or something. Next up at number 6, we have campers, but I just want to start this one out by saying that I get that some people play PUBG and like to camp, and I think that's fine. Brendan Green himself has said that PUBG isn't about how many kills you get, but about how long you can survive. And camping is definitely one way to survive. But from the perspective of someone like me, who's usually always on the move unless I find a good place to post up during like the last 10 or 15 people, it is super frustrating to walk into a bathroom and get blown away by some dude hiding in a bathtub. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with camping. If you manage to get a chicken dinner by hiding in a bathtub, then please, by all means, keep on doing what you're doing, but it just sucks when I'm on the receiving end of that bathtub shotgun. Moving on to number 5, this next one is a pretty obvious one, and that's team killers. I don't know who doesn't hate team killers. It's still really something that I don't get. Like, this is something that's big in Siege too that I always tend to encounter. If you're playing on a 4-man squad with like 90 other people to kill, do you have to kill me too? It just doesn't make sense. There's like 90 other people for you to kill. So if you are going to team kill, could you please just do it as soon as we land? That way I get less frustrated, or, you know, just don't do it at all. That's probably the better option. Moving on to number 4, this is a big one that I've seen all over the internet, and that's players really hating not being able to choose what map they get to play on. I fall on both sides of the fence here with this one. First off, I like that I'm thrown into a map randomly because PUBG is supposed to keep you on your toes. So not knowing what map I'm gonna play on definitely helps with that. It also makes you get used to and figure out the new map. I love the new map, it's great, but I know if I had the option to choose what map I played on, 9 times out of 10, I would probably pick the old map. Only because I'm way more comfortable with that map. I almost know it like the back of my hand. But hey, maybe they'll add that option to pick somewhere down the line. I really wouldn't be surprised if they do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't either. Next, number 3, we have that evil circle that is always trying to kill you. The circle is probably working against you more than other players are, to be honest. It's always pushing you and making you move. But what really sucks is when you just draw a bad hand and wherever you landed is just super far out of the circle that it essentially turns the game into a running simulator, because when you're so far out, it really changes the game. You really can't blame this one on anyone but yourself, I guess, because you decided to land wherever it is that you landed. Like I said, it's just kind of luck of the draw and you just kind of have to live with it. When you do land somewhere bad and the circle is just kind of working against you, you barely have time to stop and loot, because every time you finally catch up with the circle, it starts to move again. There's really not much to do about this. It all just comes down to luck, and you can't blame much. Like I said, it's still just something that makes me cry every time it happens. And next up on number 2, we have another obvious one, and that's lag. Lag and rubber banding is a big thing in PUBG, and I think it's something that's gotten worse since it hit 1.0, but still not as bad as it has been in the past. It's easy to blame lag whenever you die or miss a shot, but in PUBG, unfortunately, most of the times it is true. If you play, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've definitely missed a few shots or faced a loss or two because of the lag working against you. With a game that was in early access and just left it, stuff like this is expected, and I'm sure it'll get better over time. Finally, at number 1, one thing that PUBG players hate more than anything else is themselves. In PUBG, you either win or lose. There's no second, third, or fourth place. You either come in first place and get that chicken dinner, or you lose. And usually when you lose, especially when you're in like the top 10, it's always your fault. You popped your head out when you shouldn't have, you ran to different cover when you shouldn't have. There's a ton of things that you could have done wrong. But really, you can't be mad at anyone but yourself because it's you that messed up. This is even worse when it's you and one other player and you lose. It's so crushing to come in second place. I think as a PUBG player, you have to learn to hate yourself or else you aren't gonna make it. Like, I think that's just something you have to do. The biggest enemy in this game is really ourselves. And those are 10 things PUBG players really hate. Do you play PUBG? Are there any other things that you hate that we didn't mention? Please let us know down in the comments below. We'll be down there talking about everything PUBG. In case you didn't know, hitting that like button really helps us out, and if you're new here for some reason, we put out videos like this every single day, and the best way to get them is with a subscription to the channel. As always, thank you for watching, we really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.